Welcome, dear friends. I am Reverend James Stacy, the minister of Unity South Twin Cities. This is our second live-streamed service, a new venture. We're all learning. I know your minister is certainly learning what it is to connect in a new way. We have often heard this week through the media the phrase, "We are all in this together," and how true that is. So I invite you, as you watch this service from your home or wherever you find yourself to be, please realize that in spirit we are one. We are joined in consciousness this very moment as we come together to celebrate life. So I invite you, and I invite all those who are with me this morning. I would like to introduce my assistant in this service, Carlotta Pose, our wonderful soloist, T. Michael Lambo, our director of music, Judy Moen, and also on drums, we have Carl Wergen. So relax and join in heart and mind as we experience this service together. I invite you to join in our traditional opening prayer and statement of being. There is but one presence and one power in my life, in this church, and in the universe. God, the omnipotent, good. I invite you to realize that this very presence, you, our Father, Mother God, our very source of life, is the tie that binds us all together. We are one in this consciousness of Spirit's presence and power. And I would like to invite Carlotta Pose now to help continue this service.
I am Carlotta Pose, today's service assistant. While our ministry is practicing social distancing, it is even more important to practice the unity tradition of spiritual connecting. Let us consider all the individuals joining us through the internet. First, we welcome visitors who may be joining our Unity South Sunday service for the first time. We honor your virtual presence this morning. Your presence brings something new and wonderful to our Facebook Live gathering. I invite everyone to welcome these new friends with this affirmation. We welcome you, we bless you, and we're glad you have joined us. As we continue to convene our gathering, let me welcome all members and friends of Unity South. Your virtual presence for this live stream is so important to our ongoing well-being of our Unity South community. Outwardly, we may seem that you are just watching a screen, but we know in truth that we are together in consciousness. We can be one in mind and heart in this very moment. I invite all of us to see with the mind's eye all who have joined this morning to celebrate life. In the silence, hold this thought: I behold the Christ in you. Holding your palms together at the solar plexus, gently speak the acknowledgement that Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Let us allow our awareness to expand to include all of humanity. People throughout the world are gathering this week for their holy celebrations. Wherever and of whatever faith tradition, the human family is expressing compassion, cooperation, goodwill, and trust in the power of life to preserve and protect God's precious creation. I invite us, joining as the Unity South community, to affirm our traditional centering statement with great conviction. Centered in God, assured by faith, and prospered by divine love, we boldly move forward to serve humanity by building our lives and Unity South Church together. Unity South will send 2 emails per week with news and inspirational content. If you do not receive our email, please call the church office. Our prayer chaplains will continue to hold all of us in the sacred space of prayer. You can send your prayer request to Unity South by postal or electronic mail. Now let us prepare for a time of community prayer as I read the daily word for March 29th. Inner peace. I find the peace of God in the silence within me. The Hebrew scriptures tell the story of the word of the Lord, commanding the prophet Elijah to stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. As he waits, Elijah fails to find God as he endures a wind strong enough to split mountains, an earthquake, and then fire. Then Elijah discovers God in a sound of sheer silence. Sometimes chaos surrounds me as I try to find the peace of God. Other times the chaos may be inside me. I persist in my efforts as I confront inner storms, fires, and earthquakes as I search for peace. Like Elijah, I remain steadfast in faith, undisturbed by what is happening around me. I wait for distractions to pass. Peace is mine. From 1 Kings 19:12. And after the earthquake, fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. Let us take a moment to reflect on. I find the peace of God in the silence within me. Amen.
Dear friends, let us join together now as a community in prayer. This is a time with this live stream service that we can perhaps understand in a deeper way. That as we come together in prayer, there is no physical barrier of space. There really is no barrier of time. If we are willing to join in mind and heart together, we become a unity in the silence. This is why, so long ago, our Unity International Prayer Ministry chose the name Silent Unity, for they recognize that people in distant places and at different times could come together in the consciousness of prayer. They could be one in the silence. And that is true for us this morning in our virtual gathering. So I invite you to become still. Close your eyes if you choose. Let the divine presence, the inner voice within every one of God's children, speak forth in the silence. Father, Mother God, we know you are always and everywhere present. We are willing as we enter prayer to release our outer concerns, to let go of our outer activity this day, and to give you our greatest gift, our attention, to go inward into the silence and peace, and wait upon your holy word, a word of guidance, a word of encouragement, a word that brings healing and blessing upon every soul, a word that speaks within us. You can. You have the strength to do what is yours to do. I will hear your prayer. I will guide your ways. I will enlarge your heart so that you love yourself and love one another and love this created world. We acknowledge the presence of Christ, the inner divinity. Dear Christ, I know you are my shield, my protection, my wisdom, and the compassion that fills all of my acts, all of my relationships in this world. In our unity tradition, we know these spiritual truths that we hold for ourselves, we also know for one another. And so let us bring to mind all those who have written prayer requests to Unity South, the millions who have turned to Silent Unity World Headquarters for prayer support. We can know for these individuals that the presence of God is with them. They are never alone. We can say in the silence, dear friend, every need, every longing of your heart, every question in your mind can be answered by the presence that is with you always. And so let us take a moment in the silence and just rest in this knowledge. Father, Mother of God, we live and move and have our being in your presence and power. We know this in the silence of being. we join with our friends at Silent Unity Headquarters in this affirmation they have prepared for this month. Let every heart hear the wisdom and power of these words. I open my heart in oneness with all people. I open my heart in oneness with all people. Centered in one power, the power of God, I hold my heart open to all people. I heal my thoughts of separation in the unifying power of spiritual love. In the integrity of the truth I know, I insist on harmony in my thoughts and actions. I am one with God and one with all. I invite us now to gently speak aloud or hold silently in our heart that beautiful, perfect pattern of prayer that Jesus Christ taught, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. I invite you, as you gently allow your awareness to return to our activity as we receive the gift of music from T. Michael Rambo.
The breath inside the breath is where spirit lives, that silent sanctuary. When we feel that spirit, we give ourselves permission to be our best selves. Every time I feel the spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. On the mountain I must go. Out in the mountain, fire and smoke. Down in the valley, oh my knees. As I Lord have mercy. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in the I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in I will pray. Falling rivers, chilling and cool, heals the body, now the soul. All around me, looks so fine. That I am my soul in full mind. Every time I feel the Spirit will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray.
Well, thank you all for that uplifting music. It reminded me of that saying that he or she who sings praise twice. You got me in the mood for this time of reflection. Reflection on what is our sustaining power. What is our guidance? What carries us through these days? These days of challenge where it seems to me every day I wonder what's going to happen next, especially with our ministry, Unity South. I wonder what's going to happen. I ask myself often in these days, what can I do? Or what can't I do with the new social distancing? But you know, I believe there's a question behind these first two questions. And I'm suggesting that question just might be, what is mine to do? When I ask those first questions, what can I do? What can I do? That is in relationship to the outer world that seems to be changing. Circumstances different each and every day. But when we get behind those questions and ask that, what is mine to do? It begins to put us back on the track. Whether we are under a stay-at-home order, whether we are an essential worker out in the world doing an important task, and of course all of those who are in our healing work in the world. I have a certain sense for that in that my late brother was an emergency room physician in Houston. And I used to know how much he loved that work, but what a burden it was at times. And in these days, we're facing ever greater burdens for our healthcare professionals. So whatever we are doing at this moment, we can always ask that inner question. What is mine to do? But you may ask yourself, as I have asked myself over and over in these past few weeks, how do I find an answer to that question? What is mine to do? It seems like so many suggestions are coming from the outer world to me, telling me what I should do, what I can't do. How do I find that centering question? What is mine to do? Well, it seems to me, being a minister of a long-standing unity tradition, that is calling me back to my very grounding in what I believe spirituality is all about for me. And as a minister, I believe what religions of any tradition are calling human beings to. And that is to find an inner guiding wisdom, an inner compassion, an inner sense of connection in human relationships and connection with the beauty of the created world. And from that sense of grounding, we can begin to hear a response, an answer to that question, what is mine to do? Our Unity booklet for Lent features the writing of Eric Butterworth for today's reading. Butterworth writes, "Stop thinking in terms of separation and absence, and saying prayers and doing all sorts of magical things that you think are going to cause something out there to come to you. Be still and know my oneness. Be still and know that I am, that God is present, not absent. Knowing that, I become relaxed and receptive. I allow the infinite process to simply do its perfect work. And its perfect work is to express itself totally and completely in me. It has no other intent, as far as I am concerned, except to hear me, to guide me, to direct me." Butterworth was speaking of faith, of conviction, speaking like Elijah in the scripture for today's daily word. Elijah in the midst of hurricane wind, earthquake, and fire, finally hearing the voice of God in the sheer silence and stillness of being. Another beloved Unity leader, Ernest C. Wilson, said in his masterclass lessons, "Times of change are times of fearfulness and times of opportunity. Which they are to be for you depends on your attitude toward them." In our world's present turmoil, it may feel like storm, earthquake, and fire, as if everything we're used to is shifting under our feet. But it is in these times that try our souls that we need the time-tested wisdom, a wisdom that calls us to be still and quiet and listen. Be present to the source of all life, the source of your life and mine. Some of you recently studied with me Deepak Chopra's book, The Third Jesus. Dr. Chopra gave a simple formula for meeting challenge and difficulties without fear and with creativity. He suggested such a simple formula that we really have to stop and take it in. Dr. Chopra said, "Stop your outer activity and just be." In that silent stillness, invite love. In other words, be willing to allow the unifying power that is love to work through you. Dr. Chopra said, then creativity will flow in you. You don't have to fearfully force it. It is the natural activity of the soul in a state of peaceful, receptive, willing stillness. To simply be. To invite love. To invite Spirit to work through you. And then the creativity flows. There's an old Unity affirmation that used to mystify me in its simplicity. The affirmation went this way: I know what to do, and I do it. I know what to do, and I do it. Seems so simple, but yet it requires something of us. It requires us to be willing to take the time to stop, to inwardly rest, to be receptive. I love that old story. I'm sure ministers have told it countless times. A story of a family walking through the park in their city, and there was an old chapel there. Their daughter asked if she could run into the chapel. And so she did, and the parents waited patiently outside. It seemed like the little girl took quite a bit of time. And when she came out, the parents asked, "You were in there a long time. You must have had a lot to pray about, a lot to say to God." She said, "Oh no, my prayer was just a few words. But then I waited to see what God wanted to say to me." That little girl knew the secret of the silence, of waiting in stillness, and with a faith that knows guidance will come, healing will come, power will flow. So we might ask ourselves now, what is faith? What is faith? Is it just hoping and wishing that God will intervene and change all of the circumstances of our life and our world? Well, that's one idea. But another is, faith is a guiding wisdom gained in the silence that then guides our action in the world. Faith stands behind the actions we choose to take. When we answer that question, or we begin to get an inkling to the answer of that question, what is mine to do? Faith is that inner assurance that as we take a step, the next stepping stone will appear for us. Faith is knowing that life is ever leading us forward, is ever bringing us together in cooperation and goodwill. Recalling the words of Eric Butterworth, faith is not magical thinking. It is not magic, trying to change the outer world simply with positive thinking. The positive thinking gets us ready to then take good action, helpful action, cooperative action in our community and in our world. It is to act by our conviction, what we hold most secure. Well, let me give sort of a practical example. At least it was practical for me. A number of years ago, I had the pleasure to be in school and spend a year in the beautiful country of Switzerland. I was there with a friend, and we entered the great cathedral in Basel, Switzerland, sitting high above the beautiful Rhine River. It's quite an architectural masterpiece, and we thought, ooh, let's go explore those towers. The towers that soared hundreds of feet into the air. My friend who was with me was so excited with his camera and the tremendous views that he would gain from the top of the tower that his faith was just keep going up, attain that great perspective, photograph those beautiful vistas. I believe, was a little more timid. First, we approached stone steps in a spiral. Then we reached a section of the tower that was steps made of ancient timbers going back to the 12th century. And then we gained another section. And I began to get a little bit fearful. And then I realized each step was a step in faith. And what I mean by that, each step I took, I had to make a choice. A choice to live in my fear, or a choice to say, yes, I can go forward. I can fulfill my intention of climbing this tower. Seems to me, my life, perhaps yours, is like this. Each step we take requires a choice from us. Will we take that step with faith and move forward? Or will we come to that next step and let fear paralyze us to where we can't go forward? I love and often quote that beautiful saying by the wisdom of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Said his understanding of faith is it's taking a step when you can't yet see the whole staircase. It's that inner assurance, that power, and that willingness to go forward even when you do not see the entire path before you. But you're willing to try. You're willing to step forward with conviction, with faith. Now let's review for a moment. One of my friends in Unity, whom I've known longer than any other friend in Unity, I think, taught me a song. Perhaps you've heard it before. It's of the great gospel tradition. You know, we've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. He never failed me yet. Oh, don't turn around. We've come this far by faith. Written by a composer who was challenged in his own life, but in a time of stillness, silence, waiting in the presence of God, as it were, he heard that first line, we've come this far by faith. We have moved ahead in our lives. We have worked to answer that question, what is mine to do? Through faith. Our trust in life, that it will carry and guide our steps. So here's our formula. I'll conclude with that this day. 3 steps. We can all practice them. Many of us are quite masterful in these steps. For others, the idea might be a little bit new, but it's beneficial for all who will practice it. Step 1, still, calm, rest. That is, be willing to give some time to silence. That means resting, not offering God a laundry list of prayer requests, not unloading all your concerns, but being willing to simply be, as Deepak Chopra called it, to simply breathe, to simply rest in that thought. I am. I exist. Or in those powerful words of Paul, we live and move and have our being in God. Step one, silence. The second step, in this silence, after you have found a feeling of peace and calm, pose that question. What is mine to do? What is mine to do? And like that little girl in the chapel, after you've posed that question, put it out to the universe. Be willing to sit, receptive, awaiting an answer. That Spirit will always bring you. There is always an answer in the silence. There is always an inner creativity that opens your heart and fills your mind with a vision of possibility. And the third step, make a decision and take an action toward what is mine to do, toward fulfilling that question. Let your choices be guided by faith in life, by faith in the power within you. Think about it. That power of life made you. It gave you birth. It sustains you breath to breath, heartbeat to heartbeat. And it will carry you forward as you allow it to be your guide. I'd like to close this morning by inviting you to join me in this meditative verse. I'll speak it for you and we'll take a moment for it to settle into our heart. I invite you to become still. Close your eyes if you choose. And hear this voice, truth-inspired, resound within you. Quiet, I bear within thee. I bear within myself forces to make me strong. Now will I be imbued with their glowing warmth. Now will I fill myself with my own will's resolve, and I will feel the quiet pouring through all my being. When by my steadfast striving I become strong to find within myself the source of strength, the strength of inner quiet. My call to action for you this week, after you find strength in a time of silence, of inner quiet, is to ask yourself, to ask the universe, what is mine to do? What is mine to do? I can't answer that question for you. I wouldn't even try. That is between you and the universal power of life within the very center of your being. It's within everyone. Everyone can pose this question. be promised by life an answer, an indication, a direction of the next step to take. What is mine to do? And so as I conclude this lesson, if you would like the Unity booklet for Lent, or the meditative verse that I just used, call our church office and we'll be happy to mail one to you. So I invite you to join me now as we come together in a blessing of our offerings. I laughed when I heard this phrase. I sent it out in our last e-blast. Our church has left this building. Our church has left this building. But you know, now we're beginning to gain a greater understanding of what our church truly is. It is our relationship. It is our connection. Wherever we are, we can know that we are a valued part of this spiritual community. I know there are many of you watching this live stream throughout the Twin Cities, but I also know there are friends in other states joining us this morning. I know of specific individuals in Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, New York. They're with us, yet hundreds of miles away from us physically. This is to begin to understand what a spiritual community is. It knows no barriers of space nor time. So I ask all of us to pause for a moment and think how great the embrace of Unity South is growing. Far beyond these walls we are accustomed to, reaching out into the world and bringing together people in our motto of embracing, loving, and empowering people. That's our mission. That's our purpose. Wow. Did you catch that idea? Our mission, our purpose, our oneness is mutual embrace, mutual respect, mutual empowerment. So now I invite us all to support this work through our gifts and our offerings. We are grateful for all the gifts sent by mail or those gifts given online at unitysouth.org. So wherever you are physically, know that we are one spiritually in this moment. I invite you to take your gift in your hands, or perhaps hold a receipt like I am from online giving. Hold that gift in your mind, and together, let us bless our gifts with our traditional Unity affirmation. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all the good that I am and have, all the good that I give and receive, and I am grateful. Thanks be to God. And now let us enjoy another selection from our mighty musicians.
Thank you for those wonderful words in your talk. It made me smile because it made me think immediately of the experience that so many of us have when looking for an address when we're driving. And we have the music on. And we realize that we can't find the address because the music is on. We have to turn down the music to see. And so that type of focus and silence is what came to mind for me when you shared that wonderful talk about how that little girl was silent and listened and paid attention. And how each of us has to act upon that. And always knowing that he got the whole world in his hands.
Dear friends, for our closing prayer, I'd like to simply speak those amazing words that Jesus offered in the so-called Sermon on the Mount. Ask, and it will be given. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. Father, Mother God, we give thanks that you have created this world, this human family, with such wisdom that when we are willing to ask, we are satisfied. When we are willing to seek, we find. And when we're willing to knock on the door of the future, that door is open. I invite you to join with me in our unity prayer for protection. As a wonderful close to this service, but also as a beginning to the next moment, the next hour, the next day. For it builds in us a faith, a trust that all shall be well. Let us speak that truth together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is, and all is well. And we say, this is our truth. This is our faith. We claim it. Wow. We invite you to join us next week as we continue this adventure of live stream services. Thank you for joining us today.